Hey everybody, this is Basil from TechnoTalk coming at you with another Java tutorial. We're gonna start getting into more fun stuff now. I know that my last couple tutorials have been like programs, like I had a quadratic formula thing and a random password generator. That's just been kind of like wrapping up on all the operations and stuff we've been doing. And now we're gonna move into more, larger or more like a commonly used things in larger scale programs. So today what we're going to cover is we're going to cover having multiple methods in a single class. Because up till now what we've been doing is we've only been working in a single class and we've only been working in the main method. I remember at the beginning I told you guys this public static void main string args. You didn't really need to know what it meant. All you need to know is that that's how you made the main method. And what I taught you was that everything in between these everything in this block of code between these braces would be your program. That's not necessarily true because your entire program does not need to be inside of your main method. Granted, sometimes it can be, but often what you're going to want is you're going to want to create multiple methods because it's a better way of organizing your code and getting it all to work together. So today we're going to be making a very simple program. It's just going to take two numbers and it's going to add them together, but we're going to be using multiple methods to create them. So again, you don't really need to know what all of this means yet. You're going to slowly begin to learn what it means. But in order to construct methods, you do need to know some stuff. So the first word of a method, whenever you create it, is going to be whether it is public or private. And this pretty much just has to do with the availability of the method, whether you want it to be able to be used in another class, or if you don't. With these tutorials, and a lot of times, most of the time, you're going to want your methods to be public. So that would be your first keyword, public. The second word is going to be the return type. What a return type is basically whenever you make a method, it has the ability to perform a function, an operation, whatever you want it to do, and then return a value. And then whenever you call that method, it represents the value that it returns. Now, I'm not going to go over actually returning values in this tutorial because the methods that we're making in this tutorial are all void. In other words, if you do not want your method to actually return a value, if you want it to just perform a function, an operation, whatever, then this word would be void. The second word would be void. The third word is going to be the actual name of your method, and usually this is going to correspond to what it actually does. So for example, this method, getNums, is going to get the numbers that we're going to add together. CalcSum calculates the sum, PrintSum prints the sum. Simple. And then after the name of your method, you're always going to have parameters. Now, often you might have empty parameters. These two methods have empty parameters. This one does not. The parameters pretty much are the parentheses, by the way. This actually has two parameters. It takes two arguments. So what this means is that when you call this method, you are going to give it values to fill into the parameter. And that may be a little confusing, but I'll show you when we get to it. So let's actually, before we get to coding our program, I'm going to have to go over instances real quick. What is all this stuff up here? You're probably thinking, Basil, what does this mean? Private int num1, num2, private double sum. These are called instances of a class. And basically what that means is that these are variables that you declare outside of any method, as you see. These are variables that you can use in any methods of the class. Say in the main method I decide to create int x. From what you know so far, whenever you do this, you know that, okay, I've declared int x, and now I can use it whenever I want. I don't need to say int x again, it knows what x is. The only problem is that whenever you do this, and even if this was in any other method, Java only knows what x is inside of the method that you make it in. So if I put if I tried to put x equals 10 in this method, it would not know what x is. You see, it's giving me an error because it only knows what x is in this method. So that's why you would use instances, and you'll see how we're going to use that in this program. Let's go ahead and start making our code. Now, in the getNums method, what we're going to do is we're going to be making it get the numbers, but not really. Really, what this method is going to do is it's going to take this n1 and n2, because these are variables of this getNums method. They can only be used in this method, but we don't want that. We want to be able to use them in these methods as well. So we're going to actually assign n1 and n2 into num1 and num2, which are instances, so that we can use them in other methods. So we just say num1 equals n1 because num1 is declared up here and n1 is declared up here. So num2 equals n2. There you go. Now for calc sum, it already knows what sum is, so we can just write sum, and we're just going to calculate sum equals num1 plus num2. Now you have to put num1 and num2 here. You cannot use n1 and n2, even though n1 and n2 are the exact same values as num1 and num2, because remember, n1 and n2 can only be used in this method, so they're not instances. Num1 and num2 are the instances, so those are the ones you have to use in calc sum. Then you would have print sum, which does exactly what you think it would do. Just print line. I'm going to be teaching you guys an easier, different way to print, by the way, in the next tutorial. But for now, print line and say the sum of num1 and num2 is sum. And now all that's left is that we have to call all these methods into our main method. Now, if these were static methods, we could just say get nums like this. But the only problem is that they're not static methods, and you don't know what that is yet, but I will teach it later. So in order to call these methods, what you have to do is you actually have to create an object of this class that we're in right now. And what we're in right now is the class Bilbo. So in order to create an object of a class, it's really simple. Is you would just put, it's called instantiating an object. You would put the name of the class, which is Bilbo, and then the name of your object, so it's called this B, and set it equal to new, and then the name of the class again, and then empty parameters. So what this is doing is it's making B an object of this class Bilbo, and what that means is that now using this object, we can use it to call any of the methods in the class Bilbo. So now we can say B dot is how you would call a method, get nums, that's our method. And now, as you see here, Eclipse already filled in n1 and n2 for us here because we need to give it values. So, for example, if we had empty parameters, it would give us an error because getNums has 2 parameters right here. We need to give it 2 integers in its parameters here. So let's go ahead and give it 4 and 6. So you know that when these are added together, you would end up with 10. And then you're going to have b.calcsum. And empty parameters, again, it has to match up with what it is down here. And what this is going to do is it's just going to do the operation of num1 plus num2. And then we're going to have b.printsum, which is just going to print out this down here. So now we have this program built, and you see we didn't do any operations or any printing or anything in the actual main method. We did them all in other methods, and then we just called it to the main method. And now if we run this, if my computer doesn't freeze, which it just did, okay. Alright, if we run this, you see down here, why is my computer going so slow? It's going to say the sum of 4 and 6 is 10. And notice how it says 10.0? That's because we made the sum a double, but num1 and num2 were ints. And I just did that just to, mix it up a bit. Because if sum was an int, then I could put it all on one line. So yeah, that has been this tutorial. To go over it one last time, we have the main method here, we have getNums method here, calcsum method, and printsum method, and pretty much these are each doing a different part of the program, and then we're throwing it all together to do our entire program, including our instances. So getNums, what we do is see when we call this method, we put in the numbers here. These numbers get assigned to the parameters of this method. So now n1 equals 4 and n2 equals 6. And then what we're doing in this method is we're assigning those values to num1 and num2, which are our instances. And then in calcsum, we are adding them together and making it equal to sum. And then in printsum, we're saying system.out.println the sum of num1 and num2 is sum. And like I said, in the next tutorial, we're going to be learning another way to print this out. But that has been all for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See ya. Crap. Stupid computer is being really slow. Alright, see ya.